If the US were to come in right now, all of a sudden, to replace the Ukrainian army with US soldiers, they would lose so much. In the first 2 or 3 months, they would be adjusting along the way and suffer a lot of losses.
Today, we are speaking to one of Ukraine's most famous soldiers and commanders, Bohdan Krotevych, who until very recently was the chief of staff in the country's legendary Azov Brigade. Krotevych, along with the entire Azov regiment, was fighting in Mariupol at the start of Russia's full-scale invasion, and he, along with hundreds of other fighters, went through the Battle of Azovstal in higher command. Krotevych gained fame for openly going against one of Ukraine's most highest-ranking generals in summer last year, and the fallout from that is still ongoing. And here inside the country, there is a very strong understanding that this country, and especially the military, must change for it to win the war. But rarely do you get the opportunity to talk about that so deeply. This interview was conducted in Ukrainian, but what you will hear is an AI-dubbed version of my voice and Bohdan's into English. If you do want to listen to the original Ukrainian audio track with English subtitles, you can do that by changing it in the audio settings on YouTube. I want to start with this moment we are in now. We are meeting on the 3rd anniversary of the full-scale war. Many people have many anxieties and fears about the state of relations between Ukraine and the US. But you recently called this a positive moment on Twitter. Do you really see anything positive in this? How much of this is more philosophical, and how much do you realistically think this will be positive for Ukraine in practice?
I believe that this will be a plus not only for Ukraine. Ukraine is the primary beneficiary of this potentially positive situation. But the first one that should be positively affected and is already being affected is Europe. European countries such as France, Germany, hopefully Italy, Poland, the Baltic countries, which have long understood that their neighbor is an aggressor with a dictatorial regime. I'm talking about Russia now. And these countries, such as the UK and others, will begin to get involved and understand that they are facing a choice in the future, whether they become a player in international politics, a real player. Because now Trump, I believe, has resumed the order where might makes right. International law, unfortunately, has not always been effective. It seems to me that it has never fully worked. Now we just say out loud. It has been said that the US authorities are only concerned with market relations, only profits. But at least that's honest. Because going back to some politicians who smile at you, they promise a lot, but in the end they don't give it or they delay it and so on. That's worse. It's the same on the front line. If you know that there is a soldier standing near you who definitely won't help you, you don't rely on him, you are more attentive and focused. You keep your eyes on the front, and sometimes you look back, because you know he won't cover you. But when you expect him to cover you, you hold your sector, and then turn around and he's gone. And the enemy is behind you. This is worse. So I see the positive in this honesty. And in general, what everyone needs to understand now, not only Ukrainians, is that it is not words, but actions that are important. We see sanctions being imposed, and the next day they are lifted. We see how people from the same US government can say completely different things. And this causes such emotional swings in people, ordinary people, that you can go mad. We must take into account that there is now a front, a combat front, where people are dying, we are killing the enemy, and all this goes on non-stop. This is the key position in any negotiations. If we are stronger on the front, we can set our own conditions.
There is a lot of talk right now about different scenarios, different formats for some kind of peace, some kind of ceasefire. I wonder how Azov, a unit known for its ideology, for its nationalist, ideology-driven Ukrainian members, is seeing this. What realistic scenarios can be accepted at all?
We have people in one unit who support different political parties. Some support Poroshenko, some Zelensky, some support others. Similarly, everyone has different views on the end of the war. Some think that the war will never end, while others think that they will come to an agreement now, and it will end for good. Some think it will stop for a while and resume again. But in order not to get bogged down in such disputes, we do our job. Azov is doing its job. It is constantly fighting, improving, and is now being scaled up into a course.
What is your personal opinion then? What is acceptable? Should there be firm guarantees? What do you think about the presence of European troops? Could this all be an illusion because Russia won't stop in any case?
I think that it doesn't matter on what terms the war ends now, because it will resume in 3 to 4 years again. I think Russia will attack the Baltic states first. Whether it will be stupid enough to attack Poland, I don't know, but I am convinced that right now there are only two armies on the European continent that can stand up to Russia. The first one is Ukrainian, which is showing that it can resist. The second one is Polish. Other countries, no offense, but I believe that at the moment they will not be able to confront Russia at all. I'm saying this so that they take it seriously and prepare, because any current opinion polls in different countries, such as France, Germany, the UK, show that information policy is structured in such a way that, due to the fact that these countries have a fairly high standard of living, people are more likely to go somewhere abroad rather than defend the country they live in. This is a problem. It needs to change. It will be difficult for them to even mobilize the army if Russia attacks, and rest assured, Russia will attack. Especially now, seeing how it is forgiven for what it does. Despite the fact that Russia is openly committing genocide in a world where we have the internet, this is not World War II. It's not like there's one newspaper being published and you can only trust it. You can, if you want, go online from any corner of the world and figure out what's true and what's not. to understand what is happening, what Russian troops are doing on Ukrainian soil, how they massacre, kill, execute prisoners, and so on. They violate all international rules. And despite this, some still cannot answer the question of whether Russia is the aggressor in this war. I, of course, consider this a gift to Putin because he understands that he can further escalate. And this is a danger for European countries. So I think that now, whatever peace or ceasefire is signed, it will all resume in 3 to 4 years. And my main task, like any service member, is to make sure that Russia is not able to do this.
I want to shift to the front already. You've been in the Toretsk, New York area for more than 6 months, I think. In these 6 months, it seems the situation on the front has deteriorated drastically, becoming more difficult for Ukraine. What changes and trends have you seen? How is the nature of fighting changing?
Now we need to understand that this is a war of drones. Only aerial drones so far. The ground ones are yet to be approved. But in the future, I think they will be used on a mass scale too. Right now, no existing military doctrine can be applied on the battlefield. I could say that we need to develop a new military doctrine, but unfortunately, by the time we do it, it will already be irrelevant at that point. Unfortunately. So it is necessary to have some guidelines for operational work. If the US were to come in right now, all of a sudden, to replace the Ukrainian army with US soldiers, they would lose so much. In the first 2 or 3 months, they would be adjusting along the way and suffer a lot of losses. You need to prepare for this. Unfortunately, orders may still come based on the statute of the ground forces of the armed forces of Ukraine, the combat statute of 2016. In 2016, the FPV drones didn't even exist. In 2016, even drone drops were so rare that there were only 1 or 2 along the entire front line. Or maybe the drop system only started to appear in some sectors. They dropped F1 grenades in a glass. When the glass broke, there was a detonation. That means that the approach to the military command system must be changed. Precisely because, as I said, the technical component of both sides is being modernized very quickly. And this is something to pay attention to. In general, how they fought before, how people understand war is, there is a front line, soldiers, a platoon strong point, a company strong point, a company commander, a company command post, and then there's a soldier. Let's go back to the trenches. There's a soldier, he has a trench, he's standing there with his machine gun, looking at the sector of fire in front of him. That's how everyone probably imagines it, and that is indeed how they used to fight. Now this is impossible because a soldier must have something above his head, because if he doesn't have anything above his head, he will be killed by an FPV drone or a drop from a quadcopter. A soldier has some kind of cover above. If it's a small cover, it will be destroyed, again, by an FPV drone or a drop, so it must either be a system, a very seriously built defense system, a line of defense, or it must be a cover camouflaged so well that it can't be detected or seen. So there are, let's call them mole holes. It can be some kind of basement under a destroyed building. It can be a hole littered with garbage and so on. If you can't tell from above that this is a position, then they will live longer. They have no observational direction. They are guarding the entrance so that if the enemy approaches, they will kill them. Or, if the enemy is somewhere there, they are told over the radio, because all surveillance is conducted with drones, they are told over the radio that there are 3 enemy soldiers running 20 meters away to the southeast. Then they run out, shoot at them, and run back. And when there are no drones above them, they can run out, take the enemy's radio or some documents. That's what the war is like now. That's why, when the enemy is on offensive, there are breakthroughs. This is a very common story. We can have, let's call it a half line of defense. The enemy comes in armored vehicles. Sometimes one FPV will fly into an armored vehicle and it will explode, and sometimes 8 FPVs will fly in and nothing. It's a matter of luck, let's call it that. They can penetrate 100, 200, 300 meters deep, maybe half a kilometer deep into our defenses and spread out into the buildings. Our front line has not fallen, we have fighters in these holes, the enemy is in the buildings. We hit them with drops and FPVs. They are in our rear, they usually stop their equipment. We immediately destroy the equipment so that it doesn't go back, because they can use it again. And you need to understand that fighting in a village is probably one of the most difficult types of combat. Because in the city, there are solid structures, and in the village, there is some kind of shed with a basement. There is a house that has a basement. There is also a separate basement for storing pickled and other foods. So you have 4 basements on one plot of land. They all need to be checked. The house needs to be checked. The shed needs to be checked. And it all takes time. That's why we send a reconnaissance group or a sniper group, which work like special forces, and they clear the area, also take a lot of prisoners and so on. Because the enemy's task is simply to break through, just sit back and wait for the next actions. They don't have some kind of super plan. That's how it works for us. Other brigades may have problems with this because they most likely do not have the special forces units to carry out this cleanup when a breakthrough occurs. Or they don't have enough technical means. Special forces units should not storm. They shouldn't. It's not their job. They can enter quietly. They can create a corridor for a breakthrough. It's just that our military leadership still can't get to that point. This is a big problem, unfortunately. And that's why we have problems with infantry now. We don't have enough infantry. Not because Ukrainians don't want to fight, but because until now, infantry has been used ineffectively. During counterattacks and now too, I don't understand it when Commander-in-Chief says in an interview that we don't have enough people. And on the same day, we are going on the offensive in Kursk Oblast. That was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't understand. If we don't have infantry, not enough infantry, and that's true, we have very little infantry in some areas. Then what do you mean offensive? Until we go into passive defense, there should be no offensives. Or they should be very rare. When you don't have enough infantry for defense, you can only go on the offensive if the enemy has screwed up so bad, if something has gone so wrong for them, that you simply need to seize the moment, not waste the moment. Then yes, I understand, but just go on the offensive, that shouldn't be allowed. Until each brigade has at least 50% of its infantry strength, there should be no offensives. This is a crime against military logic.
just like to take a quick break in the interview to remind everyone who is watching this video to subscribe to the Kyiv Independence YouTube channel. It's really important for us to build audience, and we have a lot of interesting content coming in 2025, so make sure you don't miss out and click the subscribe button.
I want to ask about the enemy, about the trends in their actions. We see more and more people saying that they just carry out meat assaults, infantry assaults in small groups. It seems like they may be running out of armored vehicles slowly. Are these Russian assault infantrymen even less qualified, less motivated? And is there a feeling that they might end someday?
They will never run out of people. I think about this all the time. When I say that if there is a freeze and in 3 to 4 years Russia will attack Europe, starting with Baltic countries, and if they make another mistake, then also attacking Poland from Belarus. I always think about armored vehicles because they are really running out of armored vehicles. It's true. I don't yet have all the information regarding their production capabilities of armored vehicles. But you have to understand that they will always have people. People are born. Right now, the quality of the enemy's infantry has declined. Now they are sending convicts, those mobilized on the streets. They have an ongoing hidden mobilization. The quality is not the best, but I watch the news and see how they are training young people in Russia right now. And I see the danger precisely in this youth who are now in the 10th, 11th grade, who are from 12 to 16 years old, who will be 18 in 3 to 4 years, who are now being taken into the youth army, who are already being trained from childhood, from school, to shoot, to hate Ukraine, Europe, America, the UK. They call them Anglo-Saxons. This is where I see the danger, because a fanatical fighter is a problem, a dangerous problem if they are in the enemy army. They will never run out of people. But with armored vehicles, it depends on how Russia will act if there's a freeze. We must understand that while hostilities are continuing in Ukraine, while Ukraine can keep containing the Russian army, this is a guarantee of Europe's security. As soon as all this stops, Russia can also put everything on military rails. Because if it stops and says, that's it, we won the war, some Russian troops will remain on the occupied territories, but most of them will go back to Russia. It will be a little worse than the 90s were. In the post-Soviet space, it will be banditry, it will be drug wars, it will be political wars, and so on. I think they are not completely stupid. They understand this too. So, if there is an end of this war, they will have to come up with some other enemy. Russia cannot exist without an enemy. If you read their history a little, they always need an external enemy. Because if Russia doesn't think about an external enemy, it starts to think why it, lives in shit. And Putin and his circle cannot allow this to happen. So they will invent an enemy, Europe, and begin to prepare for war. They won't even hide it. It will simply turn into a North Korea.
When talking about the problems here, everyone says that there are not enough people, especially infantry. Are there certain steps that must be taken to somehow overcome this problem?
Changing the military leadership system, just a change in the military leadership system. It's easy to do, it's not a problem. Don't get me wrong, it's a problem, a big one, but it's easy to solve. And as soon as, I will say this, as soon as we regain trust in the general staff, in the leadership of the armed forces of Ukraine, you will see that people will volunteer again. I emphasize that I mean the military, not political, but military leadership, because I really don't want an 18-year-old, 20-year-old boy or girl to volunteer now and be used the way some are being used. We are a democratic, not an authoritarian country. And military personnel have rights too. There is a right to understand what the task is. Our military personnel, I won't speak for everyone, but the majority of them are ready to give their lives for Ukraine. And the only thing you want to know is that it wasn't in vain. I think that no one wants to die for nothing. If this brings victory, if there is a 100% guarantee that Russia will disappear from the face of the earth, and Ukraine will always be a sovereign state, no one will attack it, tomorrow the majority of the Ukrainian military will give their lives just like this. But they are not ready to do it for nothing, and this confidence that what they're doing is not for nothing, it must come from somewhere. It comes from the military leadership. And when people don't trust the military leadership, well, sorry, it's not the people who are the problem. The commander-in-chief hasn't held a single meeting with all brigade commanders, even at the operational tactical level, since his appointment. It's been over a year.
Everyone remembers the moment in June when you filed a report about a general who later turned out to be Yuri Sodol, the then commander of the Joint Forces.
He was the commander of the Joint Forces and also the commander of the Khortytsia Operational Strategic Group of Forces, meaning he was in charge of all ground operations on the territory of Ukraine.
You described him as a general who killed more Ukrainians than any Russian general. Especially for those abroad who looks at this war and thinks it should be the other way around, that's the difference between the Ukrainian and Russian armies. How should this be explained?
I will explain. Most of these generals studied in the Russian Federation. Well, in the Soviet Union and in the Russian Federation. I won't say that all of them. Not everyone who studied there is a bad general or a bad commander. I know quite a few normal generals who happen to have studied at a Soviet military school. What makes them adequate is that they listen to people who have a slightly different opinion, who have probably read the original field manuals, and who have seen how the war has changed. Because we cannot now use either the doctrine of the Soviet Union or Russia, or the doctrine of the United States. We cannot use either one. We have our own war going on right now.
And what does this say about the military leadership when someone like this can hold such a position for so long? Right up until the moment when a well-known figure, widely trusted by the public, speaks out against him.
That's not the question I wonder about. I wonder why we've gotten to this point and only I wrote about this. I was the one who gave the first testimony. Let's put it this way. I don't remember who said this. For evil to triumph, good men must do nothing. This worries me. What worries me is that when these situations happen, other people who could influence this don't. And I have a question, how could it be otherwise? Commanders who take care of their personnel and who rise in the ranks, that's our future. They will win this war. Because they understand that it is not their personal victory, but the victory of the personnel. Infantry, drone operators, tank crews, artillerymen, anti-aircraft gunners, everyone, they will win the war, not someone personally because they are so smart. Change the commander-in-chief tomorrow and nothing will change. We need a team that will create a system, and then everything will be fine for us.
We hear often that problematic information doesn't reach those high up, that commanders don't want to report bad news. Other commanders told me they call it a culture of lies. What is the main reason for this? And I wonder why those commanders high up are comfortable receiving these lies and being disconnected from reality on the battlefield. Is the problem that they think it's true and give orders accordingly?
I think that when you get more power, any kind of power, we're talking about military power now, the more you're surrounded by people who stop telling you that you're wrong because they want to keep their jobs. The higher the position, the more power they have, so everyone worries about their position. And let's be honest, because of human psychology, no one likes to be told that their idea is bad. Even when you tell your family, I came up with this, and your father, mother, sister, or brother says, no, the idea is so-so, well, that's unpleasant. Then you just brush it off because you have no power over these people. Imagine when you have power over the people who say unpleasant things to you, who say that your idea is not the best or maybe the worst, who say, I'm sorry, but this idea could lead to the deaths of many of our fighters, and the goal is probably not the best. And at some point, it seems to me, it gets very difficult to keep it all inside, to come to terms with it. So they start to remove such people, just get rid of them. This happens in politics and in military leadership. And at some point, they end up with people who always say, you're right, and they start to believe it. They really start to believe it. And then there are situations when brigade commanders are accused of not reporting that some positions have been lost. For me, this explains why they don't report it, because they used to do it, and then they started to be told, what do you think you're doing there? How could you lose it? Let's recapture it, storm it. We get an order on paper every day to go on the offensive. We receive orders every day to restore the tactical position, create conditions, and go on the offensive. What offensive are we talking about when we're in defense? What kind of offensive? They send this to every brigade, as if they use the same template. This isn't even about avoiding responsibility. It's some kind of, I don't know, circus, just a circus. And that's why a brigade commander, when he really loses his position, can be like, damn it, I'll report now, they'll yell at me again, swear at me, or they'll remove me from my position. They think, I'll report it later, I'll report it someday. And that's how lost positions pile up. A brigade can lose 20 to 30 positions without reporting them. Or maybe they do report and then their higher up says, okay, let's hold it. We'll report one position every day. That already creates an unrealistic picture. It is impossible to fight like this. I don't see the logic behind it. I just don't. And it's a trigger for me, as you can see. If I'm asked what the problem is, I say it like it is. But you have to do your job. You have to be patient. There isn't enough patience, but we have to find it. Because someday we will have a good system of military management.
And if we talk about best practices, about cultural changes, especially about Azov, how it all works there, can you describe the key differences in approach?
People. I don't know how this happened, but for me, Azov has gathered the best people in one unit. I always wondered what the Azov phenomenon is, why the brigade fights so well. And when I see people at the command post, at junior command posts in the infantry, I see that these are the best people. I'm not exaggerating now. I really think so. God damn it. War is not a science. Valery Fedorovich said that war is mathematics or something like that. I completely disagree with that. If war were simple statistics and mathematics, let's take some rector of a mathematical academy, institute, etc., put him in command, and what? Would he win? No, war is an art, it's not a science. If war is mathematics, then how did we hold out for 86 days in Mariupol? Because from the point of view of statistics, mathematics, science, we would all be dead. It's not mathematics at all. There are different conditions, both on our side and on the enemy's. Different preparation. And don't even get me started on the morale of the fighters. Everyone forgot that it even exists. If the morale of the personnel is low, no matter how well prepared they are, they will not fight.
With this people-focused approach, how do you keep going for so long? How do you do it?
Well, we are in our own bubble, and we keep our fighters in this bubble. I will give a simple example. When we receive a document with an order to restore a position from the general staff, we just don't pass it further down to battalions. We respond that this is impractical, it violates the statute or the doctrines or something else. So we explain why it's impossible. And the battalion commander continues to fight. It doesn't reach him. I think we're like some kind of shield that protects our soldiers from senior leadership. It's true, unfortunately. We are fighting on both sides, defending ourselves against those who should be on our side. This is true. In any case, I will continue to serve. And hope to do more to support our fighters and destabilize enemy countries that are working against Ukraine.
Enemy countries in the plural?
Don't forget, we are not only at war with Russia, but also with Belarus. I believe that we are at war with Belarus, because the enemy attacked from their territory, which means they are also an enemy. And we also have a front there. Our people are there. They're not shooting, but our troops are there. And we are at war with North Korea. We are already at war with at least 3 countries. Anyone who supports Russia, anyone who helps them with weapons, equipment, or personnel is an enemy of Ukraine, for me. And I believe that this issue doesn't get enough attention. Because we have so many problems, so many questions, and you can't deal with everything at once. But we must work on this too. We need to work on the destabilization of Russia and its allies.
Thank you again for watching this video, and especially congratulations for making it to the end. I think you can see that the Kyiv Independent is trying to get you deeper and deeper into the core issues of Ukraine, from politics to the war to society, and bring that to our audience wherever they might be in the world. Of course, we couldn't be doing what we were doing without our community of members. So to join us, click the link below or go to kyivindependent.com/membership. Thank you.